Let's talk about the constructor a little bit. Initially, I thought I wanted to talk about the functions that go inside the class, but I changed my mind. So let's talk about the constructor. So the constructor is a special function, and it goes together with the destructor. We're going to talk more about destructor later. The constructor is a special function that gets called once and once only whenever you instantiate a object from the class. So the class is actually the source code, and the object is what comes out of the source code and gets stored in memory, and you can make many copies, quote copies of your class into the object. So the constructor gets called once and once only, and you can have the default constructor, or you can have your own constructor. If you're going to use the default constructor, if you notice, because we have a health variable, the constructor also has a health quote parameter here that makes health into the number 0. Because of this default value here, whenever we run this program, we get 0. And if we change this value, then we get different value as well. But what if I want to pass my own value to the constructor? What if I do not want the default constructor? If you don't, then you can create your own constructor. So let's create our own customized constructor. So the first thing is going to your header file, and I'm just gonna copy this line, paste right here, and this is our custom constructor. So right here on the player, on our custom constructor, and by the way, this is the default constructor. On the custom constructor, I'm going to put a variable here, integer health. And if you notice, I put a underscore right here before the health because I want to differentiate this health from this health. Now this is something I do it myself. There's no standard, there's nothing mandatory. The reason I do it is because I know that the value will be the same, but the variable is different, and I know this is a parameter. Anyway, so do it if you want it. You're free to do whatever way you wanted to do it. So I'm gonna copy this line, and then I'm going to go over the player implementation. So right here underneath the constructor, I'm going to do my custom constructor, and I pasted what I copy from the header file. And all I'm missing now is the player class right here, and then I can actually now implement this constructor. So this constructor is receiving a variable, and I want this variable to be the same as our health variable. So then health equals underscore health. So what that does is receives a value from the constructor and then saves the value in the health variable from this class. So going back to the main, when I created an object player from the class player, then this calls the default constructor. So just to show you that this is actually the default constructor, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to see out a I'm gonna see out a message. This default constructor and the custom constructor. Now this is broken because we need to add the IOStream and also the namespace standard. std. Notice that I added on the header. So back to my player implementation. Now I can run. We have two constructors that we are concerned about. I'm going to minimize this. We are concerned about the default constructor and also the custom constructor. So from the main, this we call the default constructor. So let's run it. So here's a message that says I am the default constructor because we're calling the default constructor. Now if I pass a value, I'm going to pass the value 200. Now this initialization, this instantiation will not call the default constructor, but it will call the custom constructor. I'm going to run it, and here it is. So I am the custom constructor. How does it know which one you're calling? It knows because you are passing an integer here as a parameter, and when you go to your implementation, if you pass nothing, it knows it's the default constructor. It calls the default constructor. And if you pass an integer, then it knows you want this custom constructor. You can have as many constructors as you want. However, the parameter have to be different. So you can have 2 integers, 3 integers, 4 integers, or integer and a boolean or integer string. But the number and the sequence of your parameters must be different. So back to my main. Right now I'm calling the custom constructor and I'm passing 200. So here on line 12, a 200 gets printed, and if I want to pass something different, I want to pass 50 for now, and 50 gets passed. So this is a way for you to initialize a value whenever you are instantiating a class.